Zoo offers experiences you'll go wild over. Visit HonoluluZoo.org today.
The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. Alongside Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Welcome to the show on this Tuesday. And I say Tuesday like that, one, because I hope you guys all enjoyed your 3-day weekend. And two, since we were not on air yesterday, but we promise you guys that we're always on YouTube every single Monday. Not on YouTube yesterday, obviously, because the entire show was off, but we were on YouTube right now. So thank you for tuning in, whether it be on 95.1 FM, AM 760, HawaiiSportsRadio.com, or streaming live right now on our YouTube channel. So you guys can chime in on the YouTube chat or text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 888-888-5481 if you want to get in on the conversation. But again, now we are really heading into the summertime because we are officially wrapped up with all of the local sports coverage as sad face, our University of Hawaii baseball team fell to Cal Poly on Saturday to end their season in the Big West Conference tournament. It was still a very, very close one, and they lost to the eventual champs. Yes, Cal Poly able to beat UC Irvine a couple of times to claim the Big West Conference championship and get the automatic bid into the NCAAs. But yeah, we'll talk more about UH baseball coming up. I'll let you hear from head coach Rich Hill and what he had to say after that loss. And you know what? A lot of positivity actually following that, because it was just a really good run by the Rainbow Warriors. I mean, we had we always thought it was 7, 8, 9 Bowl Warrior time, multiple sellout crowds this season, and just a lot of positive reflection and a lot of positive heading into the future as well with some of these young players that we saw really show up throughout this season. We'll get into some, obviously, a lot of basketball talk with the NBA conference semi conference finals.
The conference finals, the overall NBA semifinals.
So a lot that to get into, but yeah, how was your weekend, Paul? And you know what, I'm kind of surprised because you threw me off a little bit seeing you this morning, because in my mind I was like, all right, I watched the T-Wolves OKC game yesterday, and then obviously it's been every other day, and I know that today is another game for the Knicks Pacers. But then I see you this morning, and you are, in fact, wearing your New York Knicks T-shirt, which throughout this entire time, we have been, I don't want to say anti-wearing Knicks attire. Well, I guess I can say that. It's been more like we will not wear New York Knicks stuff the day that they play, and it'll be Ithaca or Cornell, which is what you've been wearing. But you're wearing Knicks stuff today, so what's going on? Does this mean you're throwing in the towel?
No.
Or what's the thought process behind the change in attire after a good run of not wearing New York Knicks gear on game day?
1, I am not thrown in the towel. Do not ever doubt. 2, if Thomas Jamis Thibodeau himself, I don't remember his middle name. It's Thomas J. Thibodeau. If he can change the starting lineup, Finally, because I've been begging. We can go check the text. I've been begging. Finally changes the starting lineup. Finally goes a little bit deeper into the bench. If Thomas Thibodeau can stray away from his ways, then so can I. I also decided when I had heard that the Knicks were likely going to make a starting lineup change, that morning I made a decision. I was like, we're down 0-2. The Ithaca stuff is not working in this one. I've made the joke to you guys that the Pacers have this devil magic. So you know what? I went to my own devil magic. I put on a New York Knicks shirt for Game 3. I put on a New York Knicks T-shirt for that pivotal Game 3, which we will talk about before, the day lets out. But I went with a Knicks shirt. And they won. And then you know how I am. When things work, I'll give it another shot because I'm not going to be the one that screwed it up. And they lost the first two when I was wearing Ithaca stuff. So I wasn't wearing.
You know what? We're changing it.
We definitely weren't going to wear an Ithaca thing today. That's for sure. The conference finals, I needed to turn to the devil, I guess, or maybe I needed to turn to the Pope or whatever it was. We're back. We're back into Knicks gear, and hopefully that's the change that we needed along with the starting lineup and the rotational stuff and whatnot. But I had a good weekend. I actually had a very good weekend.
Good.
Too. So a great mood today on this Tuesday. Very weird to say Tuesday. Always used to being in front of the cameras on a Monday. Excited to talk about a lot of different stuff, even our Rainbow Warriors, who ultimately fell short, but nonetheless, what a fun run it was from them. So, yeah, good weekend for me. How about you? How was your weekend? Was it? You were telling me it was productive, at least. I think that's a fair word, right?
Oh, yeah, it was very productive. I did a lot of organizing. Well, Sunday was definitely a lazy day because Saturday was pretty productive. And then Saturday, we went out, a bunch of our friends, our Z18 gang, or at least a portion of them, and we went to Omakase by Ong, which anybody that's been there is very, it's like sushi meets like a fun party. So it's just like a fabulous time. And of course, the beverages were flowing. So Sunday, I had a little rest and recovery. So luckily, we had a day off yesterday because yesterday was very, very productive in terms of just getting some organizing done at the house. Want to get things nice and tidy before we head on out here later on this summer. But also going back to Saturday, though, I want to make sure I mention Saturday was like good vibes only because everybody, if you haven't seen it, Oliver Widger did make it to Hawaii. Woo! Again, we talked about him on Friday, sailing from Oregon, cashed out his 401k and committed to coming to Hawaii, bought a sailboat, put all of his money into getting a sailboat and sailed from Hawaii or from Oregon to Hawaii and kept the entire world updated with what he was doing via, like he had Starlink on board. So every day there was an update, and whether it be in his Instagram story or on his feed. So it was just a fascinating story to watch. So naturally I was like, all right, I was tracking the boat. He got here, like we were talking about on Friday, Saturday morning, arrived, and I saw on social media there were like a lot of people waiting. He came into Waikiki Yacht Club, and if you guys know, it's kind of over there where Magic Island is and everything, and you had people waiting on the rock, like cheering him on, and you had some of the canoe welcoming him in. You had like stand-up paddle boarders welcoming him in. So it was like a full aloha, and then you had his friend Skylar that planned this welcome party with them. But I tell you what, I was getting a little nervous because he had mentioned it. Oliver had mentioned in one of his posts that he is actually not like an extrovert. So he had said like, I'm awkward. If you see me in public, I'm going to be awkward. Like it's just overwhelming. And I tell you what, so many, I think when I saw a post, like over 1,500 people went to this welcome party at Waikiki Yacht Club. A shout out to Waikiki Yacht Club. They made him like an honorary member, him and Oliver, him and Phoenix, his cat. The cat did have to stay on board because of quarantine and Hawaii rules and stuff like that. So, but it's a cat, so they're better off with chilling.
I was going to say, I'm sure the
cat would not want to have been out in the crowd.
No.
So,
oh my gosh.
She's fine. And I saw his post last night. He went back. He's been visiting her every day. They've been out at that yacht club. So, but over 1,500 people, and everyone's just like giving him lei and like hugging him, and like there's crowds, and poor Skylar, his friend, is trying to get organized and trying to talk to the staff. Like, can we set up a table? Like, it was just a lot, but he was a good sport, like said hi to everybody, and it was such a fun. I was watching the YouTube live stream. We walked on over to Waikiki Yacht Club just to kind of like see the outskirts, but I wasn't about to go into that crowd either, just to kind of do our morning walk. So it was fun, and it was neat to kind of see. So because his friend was live streaming the entire time, like during the welcome party and everything like that, I thought one of the cutest things, and not everyone knew that the live stream was going on. So one of the cutest things I saw in the live stream, because his friend is just kind of like walking around. It was just on his phone, streaming on YouTube. And there was like this older, maybe like 60s, 70s, like Asian lady that came up to Skylar and was like, is there somewhere that I can give him this? It's his stake money.
Jeez,
because Oliver had said in one of the posts, like, I can't wait to eat steak. Steak is my favorite food, but because I've been saving up, he's just been eating like cheap rice and beans food. He's like, I just can't wait to have some steak, eat really good food. And this is so cute, like so welcoming, trying to ask Skylar, like, and she's holding a backpack. She's like,
going to say very
it's
Hawai'i.
Cash, like,
yeah.
It's his steak money. And I was so touched. And I was like texting my friend Val because we were both watching it at the same time. I was like, this is so cute that she wanted to give him steak money. And it was just good vibes all around. But also it was a reminder because he had told, part of what I overheard in the live stream too was Governor Josh Green, after he gave him like proclamation or whatever, said, wow, you're such an inspiration to so many people. And Oliver goes like, well, it's pretty messed up when I'm the inspiration, and talking about just the world, right? Like that he's the inspiration. And so it's things like that about Oliver that I think has a lot of people like myself like intrigued and wanting to follow his story because it's so genuine. Like he's not someone that wanted to chase the clout. You can tell he's still very much camera shy. When the media was interviewing him, he's just kind of like short answers, like just wasn't expecting this and just wanted to keep people part of his journey. And because I'm very like anti some influencer, because a lot of it is just fake, right? Like it's fake, it's a fake life, Instagram, social media. But there's something about him that is so truly genuine, and it's answers like that I'm like, that's true, right? Because if someone on social media can be this inspiration that people are gravitating to, like, that does stand out to, because in an ideal world, you would want to look up to like your politicians or, like these types of people in these certain positions, but we don't. And that is kind of so true on what he is saying, that, yeah, maybe it is a little messed up that he's the inspiration, but obviously he's embracing it. And he took a little social media break yesterday, as deservedly so.
I'm glad he did. Yeah. Because that's like, I can't imagine how much, I say this as somebody who works, like this is my literal job, is to be on social media and whatnot. I can't imagine how much of a burden might be too strong of a word it was, but like, it's a lot. It's not like it's an easy journey, especially for a non-professional sailor to go from Oregon to Hawaii. And the whole time to keep us updated, it truly was incredible. And to echo your point, kind of, it is so incredibly refreshing to see how genuine he is and how much this really was just a level of, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. And I'll push back a little bit on the, it being messed up, only because I know that, I talk about Charles Barkley in that quote a lot about, I'm not a role model. Don't tell your kids that I'm supposed to be the role model. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to play basketball. I think anybody can be a role model. I think anybody can inspire people. I think, it only takes just a little small thing. This has been such a cool thing. I'm glad, even knowing how overwhelmed I would be if I stepped off a boat and I was greeted by that many people like that, I can't imagine how awesome it was in his mind, even if it was overwhelming, just to see how cool it was. I'm glad he made it safely. It's been such a cool journey to keep track of. Glad you went too. That was something you and I had talked about.
Just to check it out. I didn't go into the party.
No. Went to stop by, not to see much more. But even so, it's been really, really cool to follow. And I'm glad he is, or seems to be, exactly who he seems to be.
Yeah. The good thing is that, in case anybody was wondering, he didn't like dock and then go straight into the party. They kind of planned it perfectly where he docked. His friend and I think his brother were able to get him, take him back to the hotel. He was able to shower, get some food, all that stuff.
Crazy concept.
And then come back to the party. So he did get some time to just like not be around people right away and kind of ease into it. And shout out, because he's like rocking the Britney Spears shirt, so that's pretty cool too. I think that gives him like extra points. So no, it was a really cool. And I guess he's going to be in Hawaii until March. So his plan is to sail around the world. And I guess he was asked about that. So
Wait till March?
So March, I guess, is the best opening for sailing from Hawaii to French Polynesia.
Okay.
So that's kind of
Well, that's what, 10 months away?
So I guess that's supposedly when the season projection and all of that stuff. So he's going to be in Hawaii for a while, and I'm sure we'll be all following the sail from Hawaii to French Polynesia.
Get him on the show.
Which will be really cool. So shout out to everybody who went to the welcome party, gave him lei, gave him cash, auntie out there that gave him steak money. And yeah, it's a positive vibes only. So I just wanted to kind of share that update because I know we're talking about it on Friday. And if you guys don't know, then yeah, look him up. Oliver Widger, Sailing with Phoenix as the Instagram handle. All right. Gonna take a break. That's enough of that. Just wanted to start some positive vibes only on this Tuesday. When we come back, we will get into some University of Hawaii baseball talk and let you hear from head coach Rich Hill on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
For children in
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live on our YouTube channel right now. All right. And you know what that means? Going to get into some University of Hawaii sports, specifically some UH baseball and the Rainbow Warriors seeing their season come to an end on Saturday after losing a very, very close one to Cal Poly, a 2-1 loss. Again, Hawaii actually striking first. They scored in the first inning, and then Cal Poly put up their only 2 runs in the fourth. And that was it. No other runners came across, and so close, but yet so far. But Hawaii losing to the eventual champs. There were all this talk about UC Irvine and their dominance. Well, Cal Poly able to figure it out, and were able to beat UC Irvine not once, but twice to claim the Big West Conference Championship and automatic bid into the NCAAs. But for Hawaii, a very good season and an exciting season comes to an end. But the future is bright for sure. Before we talk about the game itself, though, I want to let you guys hear just what head coach Rich Hill had to say following that game, starting with his opening statement.
Well, I'm just so proud of our guys. We're, down the line and in our culture, our seniors speak, when the last pitch is thrown, and it's, I like doing that, at the field. It's raw, there's some vulnerability, and it really represents what our culture, is really about, and it's family. It is pretty amazing, what these seniors have been able to do. from the time we got on campus 4 years ago to now. The on-field success speaks for itself. It's just, the young men, that these guys have become, so. And that's what people, I don't know if they get it about college athletics, and where it's going. It's about growth. It's about growth and development. It's about, these guys going out into their, community and just being pillars and being great fathers and great husbands, and learning the things through the game of baseball specifically, but really sports, that's going to enable them to put the gloves on and just kind of get after it in life. And that's what our culture is all about. I think that, in regards to the game, losing a 2-1 game, that, every team has a couple chances, specifically us. Back in that first inning, you go back to Freddie Rodriguez, who gave us 6 strong. It was just amazing. Ethan Thomas really coming of age, as you saw, 4 strikeouts, no walks. So there's a lot of great performances, and then the weekend as a whole. But we'll be able to reflect on that, and it'll feel a lot better, with time. I had a talk with Freddie before the game, just about managing the moment. I know Cal Poly is, where he came from. He's got good friends on that team, the emotion. And he stopped me halfway through the conference. He said, Coach, hey, I get it. I'm good. It's another outing. I'm focused on executing pitches, preparing right now. So that was a really good sign. And, that's 3 pitches for strikes. Fastball's got enough giddy up on it, to really keep him honest with that good changeup. And he's really developed that slider. And I will say, under Coach Zuniga, all of our pitchers just have really developed. To throw a 2-1 game in the 4th game of what I consider a regional is pretty amazing. Their guy did the same thing. And it was a great battle. They came out on top.
Can you sum up kind of what the seniors said to the rest of the group about maybe just their raw emotions of this and what they wanted to pass on to the rest of the group?
Yeah, what the first word shot kind of comes through is just love. And I mean, as males, we don't want to say that word a lot. And we don't want to hug and show our emotions, but that's the word that was used, and be there for you the rest of your life, and locked arms. It's the best year of my life. I've never had more fun. You guys are my brothers. So that deep connection theme, really comes through at a time like this.
You're listening to University of Hawaii baseball head coach Rich Hill in the post-game press conference following the Rainbow Warriors' 2-1 loss to Cal Poly in the Big West Conference tournament.
How did this format change just the dynamic of the Big West this season?
Man.
The tournament.
It completely changed it in so many areas, in a positive way. I think that, like I said, this felt like a regional, and whoever gets out of this thing is going to be battle tested a little bit. The experience, of going into the cages 40 minutes before, no on-field BP, everybody staying at the hotel, trying to figure out your pitching, managing the pitching thing. It's just such great experience, for the teams that are here. Now, the teams that got left out, it was great for them too, because, the Big West for so many years, it was Fullerton, Long Beach, Cal Poly, Santa Barbara, and whoever just kind of running away with it, right? Irvine. And the rest of us are like, well, we're gonna, finish the season. But this just gave all these student athletes just, playing to the last weekend. There were so many teams in it, and it was just exciting. I thought the Big West did a great job, of running this event. Tyler Huntley and his crew really, really worked hard. It seemed like it was 24/7. The communication was amazing. I thought Cal State Fullerton, the host, did a great job. But it felt like a regional, and that's, how it should feel. So the experience of championship baseball was felt by 5 different teams. Couldn't be more excited, more happy that we did it. Now we need to get that 6th team in, This needs to go to 6 teams. Definitely. We'll vote on that in the fall. I'm not sure I'm crazy about the higher seed being the home team all the time. It's not like that in a regional, right? That I would be a proponent, of that changing. But overall, just a little bit of tweaks, here and there, but first-class experience.
What area, what do you want your group to focus on this offseason? What's the areas you want them to attack?
Well, like we always do, it's just development, and everybody's different. Everybody has a blueprint. That's what makes us unique at Hawaii. I don't know unique, but, there's an individualized plan for every guy. Summer ball is a huge piece of our development, especially for the position players. So they're all, going out and just learning how to play the game of baseball. We can do box jumps and we can do squats and we can throw balls as hard as we can into a net. But playing the game of baseball, every night, for the lacrosse loggers or the Portland Pickles, or the Orleans Firebirds, really just shoot your development, through the roof. Look at Itsuki this year, Ben Ziegler, Namoa. Development.
This year, fan attendance was phenomenal at home. You had a really good showing every time you came to the mainland. You got a message for the fans, just whatever you want to say to them and what you want to say moving forward with the team.
Well, to the fans, there's no adjectives of how great the Hawaii fans are, how they showed out this year, with all of those sellouts. Even if they weren't sellout, it was near sellout. I can't explain what that means to our guys. The experience on the West Coast, it's the best. Oregon State comes close, maybe, and we'll experience that next year. Just because I want to go see it, just to, see how they compare to us. But just amazing. The passion for baseball, obviously, is there. The knowledge that our fans have, the appreciation, for good baseball, on both teams. It's just remarkable. It's a throwback, and I'm just very, very appreciative, full of gratitude.
And that was UH Baseball head coach Rich Hill during the postgame press conference following their 2-1 loss to Cal Poly on Saturday in the Big West Conference tournament and ultimately ending their season for the Bows. But as I mentioned earlier, a very positive vibe following a loss. They knew they were in that game and in all the games and were able to win a couple to make it a lot of fun for us covering the team and then also for the fans. And again, losing to the ultimate not national champion. Well, you never know. Big West Conference champion in Cal Poly. Again, it was nice to be back and have this postseason opportunity in multiple elimination games in the span of a week. Jordan Donahue hitting multiple home runs after his first home run of the season came on Sunday and senior night. So it was the vibes just kept on going. And again, the future is bright, especially for the pitching side, right? I mean, you got Cooper Walls, you got Freddie Rodriguez, you got Ethan Thomas. So a lot of young talent on this team, barring any transfers. Please stay.
So that was what I was going to say.
Every time I'm like, Cooper Walls, be good, but not that good considering you're a freshman. And I know in all the craziness, fortunately, it's not as crazy as we see in football and men's basketball, but still baseball is definitely one of those sports, especially when we see schools in the SEC and stuff, right? They want good baseball players, especially if you're Vanderbilt, right? Where football is going to be decent. It's all about the baseball program. So on the positive side, the future looks bright. And of course, under head coach Rich Hill, you always feel like there's going to be a chance and there's going to be a bright season for this Bows team. And that's why they had multiple sellouts. So a shout out to this team for sure.
It's going to be a fun future, even with transfers, because listen, I'm not naive enough to sit here and believe that every single player from this year's team that can return will return. They won't. It's just the simple fact of the matter. It's unfortunate, but it's the way that it works. And also with baseball, they've kind of been used to this in a sense for a long time with the MLB draft, where you have to worry about losing guys as it is or recruits as it is. I mean, heck, it happened to Hawaii last year where they got a guy in the transfer portal and then The guy gets drafted in the 12th round, and it's like, whoa, what are we supposed to do? Yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, everybody's coming back. But, I mean, Rich talked about it. The culture that they set here, the way that they do things here, I mean, it's special. A lot of these guys talk about wanting to be here for their full careers, wanting to be a part of this, where, I mean, he mentions multiple guys talking about this being the best year of their life, the best year of their career, the most enjoyable time they've ever had. That's not just because of the group. It's because of what they do here in Hawaii, what they do as a program, and the people that they continue to bring in.
I mean, shoot, we talked to our friend Andy
Exactly.
Archer. He played one season here as a grad transfer, and he feels more like indebted and loves Hawaii more than anywhere else he played, too.
Exactly. Couldn't put a better example out there. So, similar to our other programs, I'm not as worried as other schools may be when it comes to like a mass exodus to the transfer portal from a good team. Like, it's just, yeah, being a mid-major, being a G6 or whatever it is now, we add like 7 more per year. You know, I know part of it is kind of being like a feeder team, but Rich hit the nail on the head. It's about development. College sports has not changed in that sense. You know, we can talk about NIL, we can talk about transfer portal, all of this stuff. What Hawaii has shown, especially under Rich Hill, is that they will develop your person and develop your player. 2 different parts of you, but you will grow when you come to the University of Hawaii. And that is such a strong, both recruiting tactic for those on the outside, but also for those who are on the inside and they watch their teammates who have taken the same steps, who have sat, they waited their turn. I mean, who better to talk about than Jared Quant, who just waited and waited his turn and then was awesome this year. So
come on in a Haku.
And I was going to say, like, Jared Quant is just one example. This year's team was filled with them, and there are a lot more talented guys who are still waiting their turn on the bench. So very excited for what the future may hold. Wishing the best for the guys who may be drafted into, you know, the MLB. Please don't transfer out. Good people don't transfer out.
If we lose you to the majors, all good. But other than that,
if you're gonna transfer, go to HP.
Go to our friends over there.
All right, go to HPU.
Go over there. It was all good.
We saw what Bronson did.
All right, so UH's season ends with a 35-21 overall record, reaching the 35 win mark for the second consecutive year. It marks the first time since the 1991 and 92 seasons that the program has won 35 plus games in back-to-back seasons. So shout out again to head coach Rich Hill and the squad this year. And now, just like when we look at other really successful teams like our friends at HPU, now it's like the bar just gets set higher and higher. And next year, hopefully, we're not like just hoping to the final game of the season is that's making you in there. And Rich Hill said it too, though. He's like, we got to get 6 teams in the Big West Conference tournament. And, you know, Paul and I are very much in agreement with that because we were very shocked when we were like, wait, there's only 5?
I think we said that right when we found out that there was 5. We're like, what
are they doing here? So
like, we know it's money.
So he says they're going to vote on that after the completion of the season and everything. So hopefully we get to see 6 teams. And either way, even if it's 5 or 6, the Rainbow Warriors, the expectation now is they're going to make it into the postseason every single season. Again, after like just the upward trajectory that they've been having so far. Right, going to take a break. When we come back, we will get into some NBA conversation, ball on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
All right.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Here I go, coming.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ule Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Yes, because we had no show yesterday, we are making up for our usual Monday live stream, and we are live streaming right now on YouTube for this Tuesday. By the way, speaking of beautiful things, I've finally started to decorate our studio and put up all the stuff that we had in our old studio, in our new studio, so it's not like all plain looking or looks like just a giant soccer ball. So we got some of our flags up and our pennants up with the teams that we have, and then we have Paul with I put his New York Jets pennant in the corner over there that you guys can see in the wide shot that we have on our YouTube channel, and of course our Endless Summer poster. Got to figure out some of the other things that I got to put up, and we have our Aloha Stadium chair that's on the table over there, National Championship replica trophy. So we got a bunch of stuff. It feels more, Paul, you said it best when you walked in on Friday, like it feels more homey now that we have more of this stuff, but feeling like how it was in the old studio. Again, more summer projects that I can do and get things up here. So now it's starting to feel again like a sports studio and not just like a dental office.
Yeah, I had kind of mentioned it like a corporate feeling before, and that's not to like bash on corporate whatever for those who love that type of thing. But like I don't know, I like my monochrome colors, my very basic black, white, gray, and all that. Like they're great. But also, it's monotonous. It's boring. It gets repetitive day over day. And this is no longer that. This is far more, like I said, like you said, homey. This is much more, I look forward to coming in here because it feels like a sports den. Like crazy enough.
How it's supposed to feel like.
Who would have ever guessed? But now waking up in the den for a sports show feels like we're in a sports studio. It's pretty fun. Makes it even easier to do this job. Not that it's not easy to begin with, but no, it rocks, and I get to have this just out of sight most of times, except for when we go to the wide shot. So it's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. The vibes are vibing here now. More sports feel, and again, you guys can see it on our YouTube channel. I posted like a little story on our Instagram too as well. But anyways, getting back into some of the sports, get some quick NBA conversation as. Paul is wearing his New York Knicks shirt today, going away from just the Ithaca or Cornell attire that he is wearing because this is a make or break game coming up this afternoon for the New York Knicks. Again, we're able to steal a game in Indiana a couple of days ago, 106-100, but if we know anything about this Pacers team, I mean, they are up in this series and we're able to take two in New York for a reason. They're a very, very good team. I swear, sometimes I feel like every time I watch, like I'm actually watching the game because sometimes I'm not always like watching the TV. I feel like I don't see the miss. Like the Pacers do not miss any shots.
The Pacers
like,
have never missed a shot in human history.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I'm just like, how did he make that shot? How did he make that shot? What is going on? I mean, Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, we said this, I think maybe during game one, or maybe it might have been in the previous series where that guy is just like a phenomenal passer. On top of his ability to shoot the basketball, like his vision, his on-court vision and peripheral, it's like he's just so unselfish and finding the open players, and to his credit, the rest of his team can make shots too, right? Like, so he dishes it out, they make shots. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, they're just can, and then where the Knicks are kind of like, well, you mentioned like the change in the starting lineup, at least maybe that's starting to figure it out. But again, a close win for the New York Knicks on Sunday. The Pacers still lead this series 2-1, and of course, games are still in Indiana. So we'll see. It's going to be a big one coming up this afternoon.
I'm excited for it. It'll be a really fun time. You set it up well, though. This, in a way, kind of feels like the season. Not that a 3-1 deficit is the kiss of death the way that a 3-0 deficit is, but it certainly makes things a lot more difficult. As a Knicks fan, I feel much more confident in our chances to win 2 out of 3 than I do needing to win all 3 games, having no further room for error. So that's another thing, right? Where this is a massive, massive contest. The Knicks have been way better on the road this postseason for whatever reason it may be. They're 6-1 away from Madison Square Garden. It's the most frustrating thing in the world as a Knicks fan that they suck in MSG, but I'm glad that they at least figure it out on the road, whatever it may be. Keep it up today because you're right. This Pacers team is phenomenal. It's not one that even with a win under our belt, you'll notice I'm not hooting and hollering over here that the Knicks are back and the finals are back on and Knicks in 6 and blah, 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 blah. Like, if the Knicks win today, then you'll probably hear me be back on the Knicks in 6 train. But it's one of those, this Pacers team, it's been a scary team for a long, long time. And the question is Aaron Nesmith healthy? Is he ready to go for today? And how healthy is he? You know, he's a game time decision. Is that gamesmanship from the Pacers and he's going to go no matter what? Is he actually kind of compromised? Can you attack him defensively? Does that mean you have to go away from him on Jalen Brunson? Does that mean that he's maybe not as comfortable as he shoots the corner 3 where he is essentially the second coming of Steph Curry? There are a lot of questions that go into this one today. It is a massive, massive game. We've seen the Knicks before after getting a big-time win. They almost relax to an extent. That is not something that they can do today, and that's almost why I'm thankful the game is on the road, because it feels like when they are on the road, they understand they need to bring their A game every single time. That being said, can we not go down 20?
Yeah. Can you not stress out Paul and have to go up or come back and make a comeback bad? It's great.
God.
After they come back and win, it's like, oh, what a great comeback, being
no
down
team
20.
has ever had 3 20-point comebacks in a postseason.
But just don't do it in the first place.
You know what? That's because most times that's the most insane thing to have to do. Stop going down 20. Unless it means that's what you have to do to win. It's like the Doctor Strange. Like I've seen all the possible ways, and the only way we win is this one way. You know, it's we have to go down 20. If it's that, fine. Otherwise, stop it. Stop it. It was nice to see Karl Anthony Towns be an all-NBA player in the fourth quarter. That was, realistically speaking, what won the Knicks this game, was that he was unstoppable to an extent where only star players get to that level at times. Everyone with a great player on their team knows the type of zone that I'm talking about. And it was interesting because I thought foul trouble forced the Knicks to stagger Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns more than we've seen them almost at any point this season, certainly this postseason. And that is interesting because a lot of the questions around this series regarding the Knicks at the very least have been, how do you defend this potent Pacers offense with 2 really bad defenders in Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor at the same time? And the answer, as we've kind of seen, has been, you don't really? Like, you just don't really stop them. So it was interesting to see the Knicks stagger those 2. Deuce McBride has a phenomenal stretch. I'll give credit to our Michael Liscaro, who in the moment said these Deuce McBride minutes scare me. Like from a Pacers fan perspective, and for good reason they did. It was the spark that the New York Knicks needed, and all of a sudden things do feel a little bit different, where 3-0, like I said, is the kiss of death. You went for the head. You should have gone for the head, Indiana. Because I don't know now. If you send this series to a best of 3, I feel really good about the Knicks advancing once again, especially because they have home court. I don't think they lose a Game 7 in MSG. Yada, yada, yada. We can get there if they get there. That being said, the Pacers have shown all postseason, after a loss, they are almost, if not unbeatable, damn near it. They did this to the Cavs, where the Cavs had their back against the wall in Game 3. The Cavs won that game. And then Game 4, they took a 3-1 lead. You can't let that happen if you are New York. This is the season in many, many ways for both sides, I think. Because I think Indiana, after taking a 2-0 lead, the last thing you want to do is give back home court advantage, is give back all that work. You just had one of the craziest comebacks in NBA history. You gave the Knicks the worst, the team's worst loss In 79 years of existence, that was the worst loss that the Knicks have ever had. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel very good saying that. It's worse than the Reggie loss. It's worse than anything else ever. That is the worst loss in Knicks history. The last thing you want to do is let this team back into the series if you are Indiana. And the Knicks, to their credit, I've given them a lot of flack. As a fan, I've given them a lot of flack. To their credit, every time I think they're out, every time I think they have their toes starting to dip into the sand here on Waikiki Beachside instead of being off and locked in for their series, every single time I think that, they pull me back and they say, nope, not yet. We're not done quite yet. They did it against Boston. They did it against Detroit. They did it during the season when Jalen Brunson got hurt. This team, there is something about them that is so unbelievably frustrating, and yet, I cannot quit them. I love them to just an unbelievable degree. I'm so stressed for later. I don't know if you can tell.
That kind of sounds like how Minnesota fans must be feeling right now. And just like I was like, oh, this series is going to be a sweep after the easy wins by OKC in games 1 and 2. And then Minnesota almost beats them by 50 in game 3, 143-101 on Saturday. The T-Wolves over OKC. And then, of course, kind of like we were saying with the Pacers team, this OKC team is like, all right, we give you that one. We're going to come back and beat you. And now OKC takes a 3-1 lead over Minnesota after that game yesterday, 128-126. But still, this Minnesota team, after like those very somewhat embarrassing, non-competitive feeling losses to OKC, has one, put up a huge win, and then two, kept it close. So can they keep it going now with the series going back to OKC and not having their season end? But we'll keep our conversation going with NBA, but we got to take a quick break, so we'll be right back after traffic on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ule Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Keeping with our NBA conversation and heading on over to the Western Conference Finals side. And I remember texting you, Paul, I'm like, never wrong, just early, because in the beginning of the series, I'm like, oh, it's going to be competitive. Like Anthony Edwards, he's just a freak of a basketball player and is phenomenal. And then it was kind of like they just couldn't figure things out in the first couple of games. And then I kind of changed my tune. And then in that game 3, I was like, this is the Minnesota team now. I wasn't expecting them to beat OKC by that much, even though they were the home team. But it was like,
you
all
weren't
right,
predicting that.
This was the team. And then yesterday's game was the type of series that I had anticipated from the start. So Minnesota, again, never wrong, just early, although I was wrong about the sweep. Because again, Minnesota just like was not the team I thought they were in the first 2 games. And then now they started to finally, like, maybe Anthony Edwards finally got angry. I mean, he put up 30 in Saturday's performance. So that's when I'm like, all right, there you go. And then Alexander Walker is like, when I talk about some of these teams with the superstars, all right, when we're going to have other of their teammates step up. But again, Alexander Walker, only, and I say only 23 points because you would expect someone like Anthony Edwards to be the highest scorer on a team where your highest score was 23 points, right? So Minnesota, and for them to only lose by a couple of points, man, these games have been fun. So this is what I anticipated throughout this series, and just hopefully, I mean, is it too little too late for the T-Wolves at this point?
That's the
because
question.
again, one more win by OKC, and it is back at Oklahoma City tomorrow. So this team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has just been phenomenal, as to be expected. He's the MVP for a reason. But like I said, heading into this series, I had a lot of high expectations for this series, for this Timberwolves squad, because talent-wise, they're riddled with just as much talent as OKC. But similar, or just like what we said on Friday's show, is that this OKC Thunder team, just the leadership by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and just the way that they play together is what, to me, is giving them that step above Minnesota. Because again, on paper, talent-wise, like, they're stacked. Anthony Edwards is like, he's one of the best basketball players right now. Like, when his head is in the game and he plays to his ability, like, it's a highlight reel for, like, he is just so fun to watch. He's probably one of my favorite players to just sit back and watch his talents like show up and show out. But at the same time, and I said this on Friday, he's not necessarily like the ideal leader of a basketball team compared to SGA. So that, to me, is what will carry OKC over Minnesota. But please, Minnesota, make it interesting and keep playing how you have the last couple of games, how most of us anticipated this series to begin with, similar to what we see in the Knicks-Pacers series. Like, we were anticipating highly competitive games every single game. So could we get another one, or is OKC just going to be there and we're going to close it out come tomorrow afternoon?
It's a great question. I don't know. So the
it's
thing
been
is,
so wonky. Like, I just don't know either.
I'm curious to see, and it's funny to say this with one game left to lose or win one way or another. Curious to see for Minnesota if it really is as big of a difference of just playing on the road versus playing at home, because it was a completely different Minnesota team at home. And I'll say this as well. They should have gotten 0.6 seconds at the end of the game yesterday instead of 0.3. That was a great job by that fan. Because I understand the frustration by it, but like, if the fan was standing up cheering and the ball hit him, it would be out of bounds. It would be the exact same thing, and he didn't break the plane. So I don't know. I thought that was like one of those home court advantage type things where I like giggled about it. I think the most likely thing is that OKC closes this out tomorrow. That being said, if they don't, I think it goes 7, because I think Minnesota, if they truly can win a game on the road, I think they've figured it out enough that building will be charged up for a game 6, that Anthony Edwards isn't going to have a game where he only takes 13 shots.
No.
I get it. That can't be the case.
That's what I mean.
He's got to take 20 shots at least in these type of games. So I don't know. It feels most likely that OKC finishes it, because, I mean, Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren were both phenomenal yesterday on top of SGA. You know, I'm going to say something controversial. This SGA guy is pretty good at basketball. He's pretty good at basketball.
Just a little
bit. But with those two playing to their draft level and to what a lot of people thought they could be or are, OKC is unstoppable. So the Timberwolves, if they win Game 5, I think it goes 7. I just don't think they win Game 5. That's my take for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement on you, but how this has been going, I don't even know at this point, because like I said, having like just awful play in the first couple of games and then beating OKC by a lot of points, who knows? Just keep going. But I'm with you. I don't think it keeps going any further after tomorrow. But anyways, got to take a break. We'll be back for hour number 2 on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
The Honolulu
to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Usually it's every single Monday, but because we were off yesterday for Memorial Day, we're streaming today, so it's kind of our Monday on this Tuesday. So thank you guys for tuning in, whether it be on radio, stream, or of course on our YouTube channel, or if you're listening on demand. We appreciate you guys for supporting us. All right, want to get into the live chat. You guys feel free to chime in on the YouTube live chat or text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481, and very active as he always is. First thing in the show, this Caesar, he is all the way in Louisiana for now, saying aloha and good morning from there on this, hoping that we have a beautiful week. So shout out to you, Caesar. But also brought up, he says, any news on the UHAD ? I really pray it's George Killebrew. He's the best choice of our bunch and would do wonders for UH. I wish I had him as our AD when I was still a student at UH. No, we wish he was Craig Angelis, but obviously we know Craig Angelis didn't get an interview, so is therefore not a finalist. Speaking of, tweeted out by Mike Wittmann, who is the same person that had tweeted the list of potential people that were getting those interviews that we talked about last week. He said that in-person interviews are expected to take place this week, so that's kind of the update. It also says one former P4 AD said Hawaii needs to go outside their norm and hire someone with strong ties to football, basketball, and the continental U.S. in order to stay relevant in today's landscape. That's crazy. Like we kind of share the same thoughts of a P4 AD.
I was going to say, my God, am I the source?
I know. Me?
Did I write that?
I did not get the call back after being nominated for the AD position. So I guess, I do not know
Should I be putting my name in for P4 AD?
Right? Like, what is going on?
No. I mean, it makes sense, though. Like, it's funny because I just read that. I mean, he just tweeted it, I guess. Yeah. It's not, shut up, Paul. It makes sense, and I don't totally disagree. I totally understand the voice for having some sort of local tie, the voice for having some sort of familiarity with the landscape out here. Because, listen, part of the reason, or like he said it in there, it is remote. It is very different. It is like the challenges that come with this job are incredibly unique. I don't know if more than really Hawaii has to deal with it at the Division I level. Like I'm trying to think of who could even be in the similar category. So I do understand that. I totally get it. And there is a culture here that is very important where UH is the school here. Mm-hmm. It is important that you still have that. All of that to be said, I think that would be better served as like a Lois Mannon role, a backup role. A number 2, a number 3, where they can have a voice, but they're not the voice. So once again, I am not going to give an official, I'm not going to endorse anybody for this job yet, because I haven't been able to talk to anybody. I haven't been able to talk to enough people about these people. I haven't done enough research to give you my true opinion in who would be the best.
We also just don't know who for sure.
Well,
are
I was going to say the alleged people. Yeah. That's another thing, of course. That being said, I also concur with Caesar. I hope it is someone on the outside. I also liked Killebrew more because I jokingly made a connection to a pro baseball player, but I think it would be, with the way that college athletics are going, I think it would be smart for Hawaii to hire from the outside, to have some sort of continental ties, and then have somebody with local background be there, not to disrupt, but literally 2 assists. And I don't know who that would be. I don't know who has the ability to swallow their ego like that, because that's a lot to ask of somebody. Because when you are going for these jobs, it sucks to be the number 2. Like, it doesn't suck to be the number 2, but it can sometimes suck to be the number 2 because you don't get the credit. You don't get any of the credit.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. But I think that would be the better way to go about it.
Yeah, and sometimes just based on experience, you got to be the number 2, right? Like, so you're not endorsing anybody like the Honolulu Star Advertiser's Dave Reardon endorsement of Keith Amemiya there. You know, I don't want to put the opinion piece out there, which was kind of made me
actually, I will
scratch my head a little bit.
Kyle Galdera.
He didn't get the finalist role though.
Allegedly, so. You know, maybe he's lying to us. So there's my official Kyle Galdera is my, until further stated, he is my.
I am naming myself AD. But no, if you guys didn't see it, Dave Reardon from the Honolulu Star Advertiser put out an opinion piece. And I want to make sure to say that it's an opinion piece kind of alluding to his endorsement of Keith Amemiya, now the Senior VP at Central Pacific Bank and a part of the sports task force or whatever position that Josh Green created. I don't know what that is because there doesn't feel like there's much, but it is interesting for some of the things that he wrote in here because I kind of chuckled about it because I'm like, it's not exactly the flex that you think it is, because he kind of mentions in here about how he doesn't, Keith Amemiya, something that we talk about where I think it's important that the new athletics director does have some experience of either working on the continent or working closely with athletics or something on the continent, because you have to be able to have those connections and that landscape. So there is this part in this write-up by Dave Reardon that basically talks about how he has all of these things or other experiences, but then he says, or here it is, during his 11 years with the HHSAA, Amemiya became a leader in the national federation that governs high school sports. One knock on him is that he doesn't have the same kind of contacts and experience at the college level.
It's a pretty big knock.
He's just a Zoom call away from meeting whomever he needs to meet.
Me too.
Me 3.
I'm just a Zoom call away from Bob Iger investing in Hawaii Sports Radio Network, because he and we went to the same college.
Hey,
maybe David
I'm just
Muir.
a Zoom call away from Dana White. Like, we kind of go way back, all of that stuff.
I went on a Zoom call once in college to Kevin Connors, who works as an anchor for ESPN. So maybe that means that he and I are connected. That's all it takes is a Zoom call.
Yeah. It's easy
100%.
Peasy.
There
was
easy.
another part in here that I did kind of, and again, like I said, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and like I respect Dave and stuff as a colleague, but it just some parts I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that's the kind of flex you think it is, because there's also one part in here where it says Amemiya does have experience with the Aloha Stadium Authority, which he served on from 2015 to 2021. That and his relationship with Green should help with the new stadium construction, and those are 2 credentials no AD candidate from out of state can claim. So 2015 to 2021, like that part, like I said, it's not exactly the flex, because that was kind of the important years leading up to the stadium being condemned in, like that 2021 time. So you're saying that he was part of a authority that didn't plan ahead of all of this. That's the way that I interpreted it, right? And I'm like, ooh, I don't even know if you should put that in there at this point, because to me, that's how I take it. I was like, oh, he was part of the time where you could have planned ahead and didn't. So to me, that isn't a good thing to kind of remind people about, because that's just the way that I take it. And you know who had the out-of-state stadium building experience? Craig Angeles at FAU. So I mean,
really is
obviously,
just truly.
That was something in there, but yeah, it's a column. Let's see, this came out it was updated, I think, a couple of days ago. So it's, again, Star Advertiser opinion piece, kind of like what Paul was saying. Like, I'm not ready to really fully endorse anyone. One, I don't know the finalists, so I can't really endorse anybody without knowing for sure who they are. I think some of the names that we did here are, I think there's the UC Riverside AD that could potentially be a finalist, and then Keith Amemiya for the in-person interviews that are going on. But yeah, other than that, I don't really know. George Killebrew, like Caesar had said, I haven't really been able to confirm if he is getting the in-person interview as well. Again, this is just via what Mike Wittmann had tweeted last week. That's kind of based on, like, that's what we can go on off of. So I'm not ready to endorse anybody just yet again. And I think I'm still dealing with the breakup that we had with Craig Angeles. So I'm not ready to move on just yet, from anything. And, we'll see what happens throughout this week. Again, who is going to we might find out about this week. I know obviously it's something that a lot of people are passionate about, and we will definitely keep track about it as much as we can. But I did want to say something also, because I know Dave's column talks a lot about, just Keith's local ties. And again, as a local girl, born and raised here, never left, I get it. I get the understanding the landscape and having to understand the culture and the significance of having local ties and local experience. But however, in this type of role, to me, that should be secondary. Like, you need to have a lot of the outside experience on the continent, experience in college athletics, as the bare minimum to even try to come in here, because you don't want to be learning with training wheels in college sports. You need someone that already understands college athletics in order to try to learn and improve. And with all the changes going on right now, you need to kind of know that, right? Like, you need to understand the base of college athletics before stepping into this role as we enter the revamp of college athletics, where someone, whether it be Keith or somebody else, like, coming in that doesn't even have the bare minimum experience, to me is significant, right? Like, I look at local experience or local ties and being from here, the culture, yada, 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 like I said, as secondary, meaning if you had and that's kind of like in any job to me, like, obviously people want to take care of their own. I get it. I'm 100% for that. But it should be in one of these important positions, if two people have the exact same experience and they are top level candidates, and one just happens to have that local tie or being from here, that is kind of like the selling point. That puts that candidate over the edge, and you hire that candidate, right? Like, because again, you want to have that familiarity. You want to take care of somebody that is from here and give them that position. I'm 100% for that. But when it's coming down to actual experience, the local ties and being from here and all of that stuff, again, it should be secondary. You should take into account all of this other collegiate experience above that. And then if there is, like, they have local ties, they seem like someone that can fit into the culture, understand the culture, then you're like, all right, and then on the flip side, if you have two, applicants from the continent, and one seems like they will fit into the culture a little bit more, then you go with that candidate, right? Because you are still looking out for the candidate or the culture and being able to fit here with the people and everything like that. Like Keith, I think Keith would be great for that secondary role that we were talking about. Yeah,
so and that's where I'm kind of talking about
as like the associate AD, because I do think he has a good heart for the community. He's done a lot of great things. He does have contacts.
Dave isn't just talking completely out of turn with the positive things that he's putting out there.
But Keith, I think he would be great. He would fit in there in the secondary role, being able to use his contacts and connections, having that local tie to the culture, right? Like, and he's shown like that he can work with the community,
right?
But if you're going to put him in that head gig, and like I said, he's going to have to
him
learn
in a role to fail
about college athletics while this is changing.
Right.
I'm like, I'd be worried. Like, that's not something that would, like you said, an inspiring hire. It's more worrisome than being inspired.
To me, it would be putting him in a position to fail, which inevitably puts the school and athletic programs in position to fail if you put him in the head role. I think if he's able to learn on the job, if he's able to give input as the number two, as somebody with whatever on the outside, I think that's way better. The issue is that's a really, really difficult ask of anybody. Like I was saying before, I don't know who I would be willing to ask to swallow their ego like that. And maybe Keith has the ability to do that. Maybe he would be willing to do that where, hey, you're not our first choice, but we'd love to still have you on board and whatnot. Maybe he'd be, this is something that he loves the school, he wants to be a part of, he would want to do that. Maybe that's the case. But like I said, I would not be inspired as the number one because it would be like, I don't know, it'd be like putting me into your chair like right away.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
You know, and it's like, can I do it in spurts? Sure. I could probably do it in spurts, like little tiny pieces here and there. But I'd much prefer time to learn on the job and time to learn over time. And eventually, someday, I'm sure that I could feel ready to go at that level. And not only would I feel that way, but multiple people would feel that way. Because it doesn't matter how I feel. I'm sure Keith feels that he is ready for this role. It matters all around. So I don't know. It's interesting. That's why I do think it's important that we go on both sides of it, where I don't think Keith is like in over his head. There's no reason he should be considered. I think Dave has plenty of good points of why he should be considered in the first place. I totally get it. That being said, I don't think that it really is something that is feasible. I don't think Hawai'i should consider him as a true number one, and I don't think that it is realistic to expect, oh, he wouldn't get the job, so he'd be willing to be the number two. I think that would be unrealistic to think as well.
Oh, this is interesting. Well, our Vegas texter, hello, shout out to you. Let us know what you're picking, by the way, with the NBA conference finals going on right now. I'm very, very curious. But our Vegas texter texting in, Matt Elliott, the ex-UCLA guy, and I forget where he is now. I have to pull it up. But or the Honolulu Mayor is the Vegas finalist list.
Funny.
I'm sure, honestly, Rick Blangiardi, that guy, if he wasn't the mayor, he would probably be someone I would have confidence in as being the athletics director, just because of his experience able to do with Hawaii News Now, what he did and all of that stuff. And because he's his own person. That's what I forgot to bring up. That's the part that kind of bothers me about Keith is during the campaign, they almost like letting your campaign team steer you in the direction that ultimately hurt you, because they did this smear campaign against Rick Blangiardi during that mayoral race. And you knew it wasn't something that Keith had or I want to believe it wasn't something Keith decided to do, but was able to be influenced by the campaign team instead of like taking charge and saying like, no, we're not going to do that. I thought it was a very even race between the two of them. But once the smear campaign stuff came out, I'm like, ooh. That just totally rubbed me the wrong way. And after that, I'm like, yeah, if that's going to be your way to try to win, I don't like it. Michael actually texting in this screenshot via KITV Island News. I'm not sure what the title of this article is, but kind of interesting. Talking about the JL Capital CEO, Timothy Lee, indicted and charged for allegedly making $13,000 worth of campaign contributions under false names to Honolulu mayoral candidates in 2020. Speaking of the mayoral race, Lee was charged on February 7th, 2025 with 9 counts of false name contribution that occurred in 2020. 5 of the counts are for Lee's donations that were towards Keith Amemia's campaign for Honolulu mayor. The donations that supported Amemiya under false names totaled $5,000. The remaining were to Kim Pine. More of this article, again, this is via KITV Island News. Amemiya told Island News that he was unaware of the contributions. The state of Hawaii is continuing to investigate this case, and Lee is scheduled to be in court on Thursday, February 18th. So there goes Douglas Carroll being the scoops and keeping up with other things going on. Anyways, got to take a break. If you guys want to give us your endorsements for AD or what have you, feel free to text us or chime in on the YouTube chat. But we got to take a break. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Let's go.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. All right, we'll get back to maybe the AD conversation a little later in this hour, but I want to make sure we talk some HPU men's basketball as we keep up, obviously, with the UH men's basketball side and all of the signees and new players that are heading over here to the University of Hawaii, but also got to talk about our HPU Sharks because they have gotten some signees to come in recently. Again, it posted up yesterday via their Instagram, so I apologize because our graphic for our YouTube does not have another new one that came in because they're just like, hey, that's a good thing, though.
Since the graphic has been made, two new commitments have come in.
More,
or not commitments, signings.
Yeah, so Ike Sutton is one that we have on the YouTube graphic, and Quentin McCullough is another one that's up there, but there has since been another one. Is there Sean Villanea? I guess how you say it?
Yep.
Yeah, Villanea out of Tennessee. And then the other one, I didn't get a chance to write down his name. So there's been quite a few, but I am definitely going to kick it over to you, Paul, to get us updated and kind of talk to us a little bit about these newest signees for the Sharks and what fans can expect. Because when you look at kind of their list of returnees as well, HPU got a good amount of them for this new squad to come in, and the expectation is going to be a lot higher. Again, coming off from a down year last season, but next season looks very, very bright with a lot of their returnees and solid players coming in.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know where to start in a way because, like you mentioned, a bunch of different players returning, including the biggest one in Joshua West, who might be the best player in the entire conference to return. If he's not, he's among the top 5 players returning in the conference. So that I thought was an absolutely massive retention for the Sharks to begin with. And from there, they've continued to add on. We've talked about Quentin Meza, Nemanja Sarnec. Ike Sutton is where I'll start. That's actually the younger brother of Lyle Sutton, one of the assistant coaches for HPU. Ike's pretty good. This is a kid who actually is a class of 2024 graduate, went on a mission last year to Mexico and finished it up now, coming out to the islands to join the Sharks. I don't know if he will play an impact this year or a role this year, but this is a guy who I think will end up being a key cog for the Sharks by the end of his career and probably pretty early in his career. He just needs to put on a little bit more weight. He was a 1,000-point scorer in high school, averaged over 16 points per game during his senior season, played with a guy who actually ended up going to BYU. He's from the state of Idaho, so, the basketball talent isn't that of California or, maybe some others, but Idaho actually a little underrated. They've got some pretty good hoopers out there. So he and Ike Davis, who ended up going, like I mentioned, to BYU, they were the co-area players of the year, led their teams to back-to-back state championships while at Hillcrest High School in Idaho. So he's somebody who should be exciting. Maybe not this year, but in the future it'll be pretty fun to see. Quentin McCullough is also another guy. He'll probably end up fighting in the big man rotation. That's something that you're going to see with the Sharks this year as well. This is not going to be as big of a team as we've gotten used to over the past couple of seasons, right? We had Matt Van Komen a few seasons ago where it's 7'4" or 7'3", 7'4". You had even last year with Tucker Polici and Charlie Weber and Jonas Visser, go down the list. Like, you had 6'9", 6'10", 7-foot type guys. Outside of Zane Gall, who is a high schooler coming to the Sharks. I almost said the Bows. Sorry, I'm all over the place. This is a team who's going to be mostly like 6'6" and under. So expect them to play a lot faster. Expect them to be a little more pesky defensively, shoot a little bit more from long range. And that takes me into the next guy. I apologize if I misspeak or don't say your name correctly. Shinichi Ito, a guard, another JUCO guy who, this is a sniper. Like, this is a guy who knocked down over 100 3-pointers last season, took over 9 per game, which is impressive at Cuesta College. Played in the same league where Avi Halpert also played in before coming to HPU last year. So that's kind of where I go when it comes to how much do these stats mean, because obviously the JUCO level is very much so, it varies, the type of talent that you may see from time to time. But he was a freshman from Japan, 6'2" guard, 190. Like I mentioned, a sniper. Knocked down, 103 3-pointers last year on 261 attempts. Like I said, more than 9 per game, shot 39.5% from behind the arc. This is a guy who will compete for time. It's going to be tough because the guard rotation is pretty stacked if you look at who the Sharks have.
Because they posted this like returning graphic on their Instagram, and obviously a bunch of them, but then also not on here because it more references like their returners from, I think, from last season. But Diggy Wittenbush, right, like is one of them as well, not included on the graphic, which is noticeably that he's missing, but I guess they didn't count him because he wasn't playing last season due to the ACL injury. But he's expected to also be on the court. So just to emphasize your point for our listeners about HBU being stacked at that guard position with the return of Joshua West and with the return of hopefully a 100%, just like he never got injured, Diggy Wittenbush. I mean, this is going to be a scary and fun team for the HBU Sharks.
Dude, I'm very excited because it's going to be different. It's just going to be different from the two teams that we've seen under Jesse Nakanishi's leadership so far, because they are going to be smaller, and it's just the fact of the matter, they have to play differently. And that being said, I don't know how different it'll be. We've seen them be committed on the defensive end. We've seen them be pesky, and adding back a Diggy Wittenbush who, maybe you want to work him back somewhat slowly. It's nice to have this type of guard depth. It's nice to have Joshua West being back and having that experience as a go-to scorer. Like, this is a Sharks team who could be very, very fun going into next year. And the last guy that I haven't mentioned quite yet is Sean Villanea, who he's another kind of backup big. He's 6'6". He's going to put a ton of effort on the floor whenever he is out there. He actually has family military here in Hawaii, so has Hawaii ties. Spent last season at Jefferson College, appeared in 26 games, 5 points per game, 3 rebounds per game. Just another guy who, at the very least, is good for the culture, and at the most could give you some really strong minutes in those like awkward stretches of games. Especially, we talk about it in men's college basketball, where it's the only version of basketball they play halves and not quarters. In those kind of doldrums of the halves, this is the type of guy, the effort guy, the garbage points guy who could very much so play a difference. Maybe not huge in the stats, but the energy that he brings. So a fun group in all. I think it's, 7 guys that they're bringing in, like you mentioned, along with Diggy Wittenbush coming back. It's a lot of really, really strong talent for the Sharks, who clearly they didn't like how this year ended. They didn't like how this year felt. So I'm excited to see what year 3 under Jesse Nakanishi holds.
Yeah, and a couple of other guys I wanted to mention, because you have like Josh Niosulu, who wasn't in action again last season either, but he adds more on the defensive side, which will be nice to see him back. And then Bossman asked me about Mai Dusanich, and I wasn't sure at the time. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's coming back, but I don't know. But he is back.
I don't know how he has more eligibility.
That's why I was like, wait a minute. I thought he was done, but I guess not.
I thought both times that I've called senior night for them that he was going to be going into it, and both times I was told, nope, he's still got more time.
So it's awesome to see. And Kemp Van Ness, his dad, shout out to his dad, who is very much appreciative when we're able to call the games for there, because he has like his own podcast, right? I think that one of our regular listeners, I think it's Caesar maybe, that listens to his dad's podcast or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I know one of our listeners told me that they listen to both of our shows.
That. I was going to say,
like, hey,
because
yeah.
I remember getting added. Like, on Twitter being like, no way, because I was on the call for like an HPU game, and it was very, very funny.
Yeah, but yes, a shout out to head coach Jesse Nakanishi and, of course, the staff there, because I think after last season left a very, very bad taste in their mouth. It was way below what they expected to do. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, calling that game that was on TV, it was like this huge momentum thing that you thought this season was going to bring. And it didn't bring that, especially after making it to the postseason in the Pac-West Conference tournament the season prior. Obviously, an early exit out of that, but that was the standard, right? Making it into the postseason didn't have that last season. So now we see the guys coming in. We see all of these returnees, especially the return of, like we keep saying, Diggy Winbush and that depth at guard. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very fun upcoming season for the HBU Sharks for sure.
You got the returners. You've got all these guys that I just mentioned, and I didn't even really talk about the two guys who we've already talked about on the show. But in terms of biggest additions, like Quentin Meza and Nemanja Saranac, they're going to be big-time additions. Saranac is a 6'5" guard. He played he was a redshirt last year for Weber State. He's a guy who can like really knock it down from long distance. And Quentin Meza was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Idaho, coming out of high school. So like these are legitimate guys who both have spent time in Division I programs. We've seen that exact formula play out in a really great way twice now in 2 separate seasons for HPU. It would not shock me if these guys are the next ones to follow along in that blueprint.
Ooh, let's go. Is it next basketball season already? It's still got a long way to go. And we're hopefully going to see some new additions, continue to see new additions to the UH Manoa men's basketball team as well as the summer goes along. But going to take a break. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. Alongside Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do every Monday. But because we did not have a show yesterday due to the Memorial Day holiday, we are streaming live on this Tuesday, and I need to wrap my head around the fact that it is Tuesday today. And it is not Monday, but we thank you guys for tuning in. Other than that, most days or most weeks, you can tune in on YouTube every single Monday. And feel free to chime in on the live chat or text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. By the way, our Vegas texter hearing the bat signal and saying that, saying Indy best over totals team in 2023 and 24. Deep bench, fast pace, lots of threes. And then he has $ at Circa exclamation point. So shout out. We love the support to our friends there at Circa Sports. So going with the Indy there, Paul.
I can't blame him. So this is the thing, right? Indiana has been phenomenal this entire postseason. And I said this during hour number one, where just because you win one game doesn't necessarily mean it's showing cracks in the armor, because every once in a while they will just do this. They did it against Cleveland, where Cavs had their back against the wall, and all of a sudden, well, guess what happened? Just a smackdown of all smackdowns. And, and part of what our texter is talking about there is why they were able to do that is because of their depth, because of the speed at which they play, because it feels like it's a never-ending pit of quicksand, right? You feel like you're pulling yourself out of the depths and deficit and whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden they hit you with like a 12-0 run across a minute and 40 seconds, and you're like, what the hell just happened? It's one of those car crash, whiplash, whatever you want to say type of things. That's why this team has been so impressive, and not just so impressive, they've been near unbeatable at home. So I don't blame anybody for looking at it and being like, yeah, why wouldn't they bounce back today? You have the ability to make adjustments, and you can only... Seemed like New York went to all of the bags of tricks in Game 3. They needed to throw the kitchen sink at the Pacers to see what would stick to try and figure this out. That being said, the Knicks did look like the better team throughout the first 45 minutes of game number 1. So maybe we just kind of cancel out 1 and 3. Now, can the Knicks answer back to what the Pacers did in Game 2 in MSG and just flat out win a game on the road? No chicanery, no whatever it may be, no going down 20, no whatever crazy comeback in the final seconds, just flat out, can you win the game? That's the question that New York has to answer today. And if they do, they'll send it back to their home floor with a best-of-3 series and a chance to go to the NBA Finals. That's truly how I feel. So I'm excited. It's going to be stressful. I think the Pacers are going to come out with an absolute haymaker today. I think the fans are going to be charged up. I think the environment is going to be insane. That's something I want to say, by the way, just like credit to all of the fans throughout this entire run, whether it was in Oklahoma City, whether it's in Minnesota, in Indiana, in New York. The fans have been outstanding. The environments have been... I'm trying to think of a word that would do it justice. Like, it's almost... They're rabid. It's truly awesome to see the level of passion that the fans have been able to show throughout this, especially a bunch of franchises who have been pretty tormented throughout history.
Except for the psychotic New York fans that were bullying, like, poor Pacers
Listen,
fans.
I'm not going to give any credit to that, but also an Indiana Pacers fan just stabbed 2 New York Knicks fans in a bar, so I don't want to hear anything about how bad New York fans are. Fans are crazy. They're short for fanatic. Be not violent. Keep within yourself.
Yeah.
That's my best advice to fans on both sides.
Yeah, and Tyrese Halliburton's dad gets to be back in attendance now, but
they're pulling out all the stops.
Not courtside though. He can't be on the court
It's
and for risk any him going up to any players on the opposing team.
They sacrifice Caitlin Clark's hamstring. They already killed off Jim Irsay. John Irsay. What am I saying? It's unbelievable. The devil I had to fight back with my own devil magic coup. I had to.
You're trying.
I went back. I did my non-devil magic. I did the Pope magic.
I don't know. It's going to be a long shot. And again, like we mentioned this in hour one, where it's like, I feel like every time I'm actually watching the game between the Knicks and the Pacers do not miss shots. Like every time my eyeballs are on the TV, they do not miss shots. But then you look at the last game when the Knicks were able to win that game in Indiana. They won by 6. But you look at the final box score, and the Pacers were 5 for 25 from long distance. And that is like not necessarily something that we have seen from the Pacers throughout this entire postseason. Like they hit just about everything where you're like, and again, it's not the lack of good defense majority of the time. Obviously, sometimes you'll get stuck and you won't close out in time on whoever is shooting outside. And I mentioned Tyrese Halliburton, always able to find his guy on the outside, and more times than not, they make it when they're wide open. But when you look at something like that, where Indiana only make just, again, 20% of their threes, that's uncharacteristic for this Pacers squad. And that is part of the reason why, like, I look at them obviously still being at home and everything, that I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a tough one for the Knicks to come back from. If the Pacers don't have a back-to-back games where they are shooting that poorly from long distance, it could be very different. Where on the flip side, the Knicks 11 for 32 from the three-point line. So, I mean, there's a lot of differences in games, but that was probably the thing that stood out to me the most, considering how awesome Indiana has been from the three-point line.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think the number that sticks out to me more in that is actually the amount of shots that the Pacers took from three, because we've talked about it. This is a high-powered offense. They'll continuously go, and while they're not the Celtics per se, and they won't settle for a ton of threes, they do generate a lot of them. And I think the New York Knicks played phenomenal defense in Game 3, where it very much so was running them off the three-point line. It was not letting them be as comfortable. So if the Knicks can replicate that effort, then I think that maybe you see that type of thing. Though I will also say this, I don't know if the Knicks are going to shoot as poorly as they did, because I think you can make the case where, I mean, do you really think that Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges both go 6 of 18 again? Like, Jalen Brunson, I thought, had his worst game maybe of his Knicks playoff career. Like, does he have a bad game again? Does Mikal Bridges, who, as much as I have loved his effort throughout the Celtics series, has not been very good in this series. Just, he has not made shots when they need him to make shots. He's shooting, his three-point percentage is pitiful in this series. Like, what's to say that he doesn't show up all of a sudden? And Karl Anthony Towns, before that fourth quarter, was horrible. I mean, just frankly, like, half of, if not three-quarters of the Knicks fan base had traded him. Like, we had mentally traded him. Giannis was on the way to New York. We packed Cats bags for Milwaukee during the third quarter. So, I will push back in that sense, but I don't disagree with you where I don't expect the Pacers to shoot 20%, or even, I'll say this, I don't expect them to shoot 44% from the field. Like, I expect the Pacers to come out with a haymaker today. They're going to have the devil magic shooting from three. They'll probably make their first 15 shots. And if the Knicks can survive the first blow in each half, because it comes in each half, if the Knicks can survive the first blow, they'll have a chance to send it back to New York. But I can't push back any further than that. I don't think you're wrong for thinking that the Pacers should be favored. They're at home. They're a better home team than they've been, or than most teams are. They have an incredible offense. Their defense has been phenomenal throughout the playoffs. And I mean, quite frankly, as much as I sit here and I'm like, oh, what's the chances of Jalen Brunson having a second straight bad game? It's a non-zero chance. And like, I can't sit here and tell you that the Knicks can survive a second straight bad Jalen Brunson game. So there's a lot to figure out. It's going to be a stressful game. I'm glad we're going to get to hang out and
We're gonna
get
go
some
to Fun
stress
Factory for a little
out
bit.
before.
You can take out all your competitiveness against Michael and Olivia as you guys compete in whatever we're supposed to be playing at Fun Factory later on this morning. When we take a look at the futures market, though, odds via BetMGM, no surprise, the Thunder are your favorite, minus 375 favorite to win the NBA Finals. Yeah, no argument there. The Pacers have your second shortest odds at plus 550, and then you got the drop off to the Knicks at 10-1 and the T-Wolves at 40-1.
Feels correct.
When you look at each conference side, the Pacers are your minus 210 favorite to win the Eastern Conference, and the Knicks are the plus 170 dog. On the Western Conference side, the Thunder, let's see, minus 5,000 to win the Western Conference. Again, no surprise there. The T-Wolves at 18-1 odds to win the Western Conference. Again, that feels 100% correct. I'm glad I was proven wrong that it was not a sweep, but that was kind of an uncharacteristic game for OKC, and quite frankly, in this playoffs, uncharacteristic game by the T-Wolves, because I don't always anticipate that they will play the way that they played in that blowout over OKC. Again, just really inconsistent. On paper, talent-wise, evenly matched with OKC, but when it's a team sport and you don't play as individuals, and that's why the Thunder have been so impressive throughout this whole playoff stretch. And yeah, they are very much, I can confidently say, I guarantee it.
I guarantee it.
That the OKC Thunder will be in the NBA Finals. Our friend Caesar is saying, as much as I want a Knicks Thunder NBA Finals, we'll get a great NBA Finals regardless. I do agree.
I agree wholeheartedly.
As long as it is the Thunder in that side. I do think whether it be the Knicks or the Pacers that make it to face the Thunder, I think we'll get a good series, but it must 100% be the Thunder, please. But it says, if you're a hardcore basketball fan, you'll absolutely love whatever team goes to the finals.
I agree.
Yes. Well, whatever team on the Eastern side goes to the finals. I 100% would rather OKC go. Just, again, they're just more of the complete team. I think they'll consistently play a good and competitive game every single game, whereas the T-Wolves, I'm like, which team are we going to get this time around? Anthony Edwards. Which Anthony Edwards are we going to get? Nonetheless, it's been a great playoffs so far. Right, going to take a break. We'll be right back to close things out here on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, HawaiiSportsRadio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. So thank you guys for tuning in, or if you happen to be listening or watching on demand. And speaking of being able to listen and watch on demand, you guys can do that and hear our conversation we had at the beginning of hour number 2 when it came to the discussion about the athletics director, as the Mike Wittmann tweeting out that the finalist interviews are set to take place starting this week. So some of the finalists coming into town, if they have to travel over here to the from the continent. So all of that stuff, we're talking about Dave Reardon's opinion piece in the Star Advertiser over the weekend, somewhat of an endorsement of Keith Amemiya in that role. I want to also get to our texter who did text in additionally about Matt Elliott, again, formerly with UCLA, and he is now part of the Hawaii Community Foundation, Senior Director of Policy and Public Affairs. Our texter saying he listened to Matt Elliott in a sports conference on YouTube, and it says that he tops the 5 candidates, I guess, that have been released to be some finalists. So like, I haven't done entirely all the research I needed to do. Once again, I more so want to wait to know exactly who the finalists are to give my complete, I guess, quote unquote, endorsement or whatnot of who the next. I
jokingly said endorsement because I know people don't actually care.
Yeah, but to throw an opinion out there, of who I would prefer, I'd rather see who because you guys know I haven't been shy about it, who I would prefer in my number one choice. He did not get an interview, so there we go. So I need to see who the actual finalists are for sure, not just based on a tweet by Mike Wittmann, but see it be released by the University of Hawaii to really know who our choices could potentially be. Our choices, as if I get a vote in this, but for sports talk radio purposes, before I, like I said, give my endorsement to anybody who would like to know who the finalists are for sure. But I love that you guys have your own thoughts. Again, we got Caesar that wants George Killebrew, and our Vegas texter that wants Matt Elliott. Dave Verdon of the Star Advertiser wants Keith Amemiya. Kule Agbayani, undecided right now. So we will see who comes down.
Kyle
Galdera. Paul, you.
Kyle's my lone local guy that I'll cape for. Yeah, me. I've got the continent ties. There you go.
We should have dual athletic director status. Both of us.
Perfect. It's exactly what we were talking about with the number 2, except we're both the number 2 and number 1 simultaneously. It'll be perfect.
And then Michael can be our number 2.
Exactly. What more could you ever ask for?
There you go. We totally have all of the experience
You're
that
welcome.
we need.
Reach out. You have my email. You have my phone number. Whatever you need.
Is it too late to put out the finalists? We can add
I was going to say, add me to the list. Add this conglomerate to the list. It's the most obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
Duh. It's the best of all worlds.
First order of business. Hawaii Sports Radio, the new official home for University of Hawaii Athletics.
First order of business. Hiring Craig Angelis as a consultant and as my number 3. All 3 of us immediately stepped down.
that would be second order of business. Again, first order of business would be Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Exactly.
I remember I joked with Kyle where I was like, yeah, Kyle, this is when he was still going through the initial phone call and whatever. I was like, yeah, I hope your first order of business is to make HSRN the new radio partner.
Your bread's buttered, buddy.
And of course he's like, oh yeah, for sure. That would be 100%. Again, it's just funny to joke about. Not happening, but
bringing the Green Bay Packers out here for training camp, bringing the Atlanta Braves out for spring training games. That'd be fun. I know that's totally off topic. How fun would it be to have a spring training game out here? I know they have them in Arizona. They have them where why not?
Yeah,
a one-off game. Why not?
Why not? I'm all for it.
I'm not sure who that team would be. Bring the Mariners out here. Bring the Angels.
Oh, yeah, the Mariners.
Realistically, the answer is the Dodgers. I know the answer is the Dodgers, but
I don't know. I think if you had the Mariners and the Dodgers, that would be
I'm on
insane.
Board for that. I'm on board for that.
Because I think in Hawaii, obviously without doing an official survey, I think the majority of Hawaii people are fans of the Dodgers and Mariners, 100%. Obviously we know the Dodgers is probably the most popular team, but I think the Mariners are a close second. I know a lot of people like the Giants, our friend Scott Robbs and some of the other West Coast
and
teams.
Vicente,
but I think the Mariners are because a lot of people have that ties to the Ken Griffey Jr. era, right? People just love that
Colton
time
Wong
in baseball.
Played for them for a bit.
Yeah, so that
Josh Rojas.
Oh yeah, Josh Rojas for a little bit.
I don't know where he is now. That's a bad job by me, but. I think that'd be fun. The reason I say realistically probably the Dodgers is just because money. Like at the end of the day, they're the ones who are most
kind
willing
of
to
need
spend
like
money.
it would be nice to have a football stadium that you could put like the Savannah
trust,
Bananas and
man.
fit them in there, but we don't. So that'll never happen because if Shohei Ohtani were coming here, the Les
You're gonna-
Murakami
you're
could
gonna
not
need more
fit
than
like
25, 300.
anything crazy. Like that will not happen. War Memorial maybe. We'll see if they can put that as a baseball stadium. Anyways, we got to go. So for Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening and watching. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye.
Home of the Los Angeles